Ever done that? Whenever like the neg long jam, we call it forever, and you get like one or two, yeah. And you feel tired, you feel neg, you don't want to do it again. It doesn't create the right feelings in the business. I'm not gonna. By the way, guys, is every phone jam gonna go great? No. Are there gonna be phone jams this summer that you better make a ton of calls? Yes. Like, am I gonna make no calls during SC2? Obviously not. I'm gonna call all the time. How can I get overly efficient so my business runs like clockwork? Okay. So. Right now, I know that if I make 10 phone calls, I'll book at least 4 appointments, whether or not you pick up. I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. Cool? So, the bottom line is challenging you to improve on your strengths, challenging you to get better. Most people, who here on the room will consider themselves good enough on the phone to sell Cutco? Everyone, but how can we get better? Does that make sense? So, why I'm giving this message is because it's something I've focused on for a long time. Because this semester, I made about 10 calls a day, and I sold $50,000. And that was not me a year ago. I've sold Cutco for 4 years. This was like this semester. Put it this way, a year before I sold 11 grand in the spring, and I sold 53 grand in the spring. There's a couple different shifts, and that's actually why I'm speaking about it. I want to speak about the 2 shifts I made, on the phone and on referrals. You guys, some of you heard the referrals, now you get the phone. Pretty simple. Who here heard me say that if you get the 2 talks, you'll probably get everything you need to know? Alright, awesome. So, I want to look at the attitude behind it. This is most of my thing. It's getting into my mind, getting into like the way I look at the phones. Dan Miller and I had a great conversation. He kept asking the why behind the phone. And I answered. He'd say, why that? Why? Why? And he kept going. So here's like the kind of stuff we got down. Ready? By the way, guys, the actual content isn't what matters. It's if you can get the concept, the way I'm thinking, if I can portray that and you guys can understand like the way my wheels are turning, that makes sense? You can do the exact same thing. So, it's not just about making more calls. Like your manager will tell you, if you need to sell more, what do they tell you to do? Make more calls. I'm not saying it's not gonna work, but it's not always the answer. Like in a push, I know for me, like there was an SC2 where I sold $23,000 and I made every call I could possibly make from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., literally the whole push. There wasn't 10 seconds that I wasted. If you did a documentary 24 hours a day, you couldn't count the 10 without being on a demo or on a phone. I couldn't make more calls. So, I could do a couple other things though. I could get better at selling, I could see better people, or I could get better on the phones. Does that make sense? So how can I get beyond efficient? So, my attitude is that I will book everyone who picks up. I will book anyone and everyone who picks up. Plus, 30% of people that don't pick up. So I'll book everyone that picks up, this is my attitude, plus 30% of the people that don't even pick up their phone. Why? Because I'm going to leave a great message. Now, I know a lot of you have been taught not to leave messages, and that probably was a good teaching, because your manager probably didn't know how to teach you to leave good messages that they call you back for. I'm going to teach you guys the 4 steps to make sure they call you back on a message. Things like that, okay? So, why do I love being overly efficient on the phone? An overly efficient business equals one thing: making the job look easy. Write that down. Making the job look easy. If you're overly efficient, like, there were definitely weeks where I worked really hard. A couple weeks this campaign where I worked my butt off. But there were about 8 weeks where I made 10 calls a day and 6 demos a week. And I sold anywhere from 3,000 to 9,000 a week. Every week, week in, week out. There were weeks where I was literally Monday night, I'm like rolling. I'm like, did I really sell $47 this week? I cannot believe it. Like, I got really lucky. And then the next week, I got lucky again. And the next week, I got lucky again. I was like, this obviously isn't luck. It's happened like 6 weeks in a row. I was on to something. And so, it's all about your attitude. So, the bottom line is, the philosophy behind it. The why. Why do I want to become overly efficient on the phone? One is, I'm not going to let them miss the opportunity to own Cutco. Yeah. I will not let my lack of preparation on the phone stop Mrs. Jones from making the best purchase she would have ever made in her life.